It's officially May, and I totally was tempted to sing that like Justin Timberlake, but I did not. But welcome to a brand new month. We are back to regularly scheduled programming with the podcast after recognizing Abortion Recovery Awareness Month for April, and we are going to stay at 2 episodes per week, at least for the near future. We're going to see how it goes. I'm excited because I have quite a few guest episodes that we are going to continue to have. Some of the women may be sharing their post-abortion testimonies. Other of them are friends of mine that I've met on this super fun podcasting journey that have expertise in something that I think is related to our healing. And so that is who we are speaking with today. We are speaking with my friend Kristina today. I met Kristina when we were both interning for our podcasting coach, and she has become a long distance friend of mine, and she is just such a fun person, so kind, and really knowledgeable in organization. So I'm going to read a little bit about her to you. So Kristina Bersetti is a professional home organizer from the Boston area. Her current focus is helping women and families to simplify their home lives and create stress-free routines for lasting home management in their current season of life. Kristina offers a faith-forward perspective, budget-friendly solutions, and practical steps in her local and virtual business, Organize with Kristina, as well as the podcast Organized on Purpose, free decluttering and organizing made easy Facebook community, monthly newsletter, and social channels. So lots of opportunities to follow along with Kristina. Kristina employs simple joys in life like reading, cooking, and exploring alongside her husband, their daughter, and pup. So fun. You guys, this was a really fun conversation. I'm really excited for you to hear it. And I think that you are going to be super blessed by it, because if you've heard me talk about my healing journey and all of the clutter and mess that was in my home when I was at my lowest point of depression, you might be able to relate to that. You might be sitting right now listening to this, looking at weeks of dishes not done, months of laundry not done. You don't know the last time you cleaned your bathroom. You don't know the last time you went through the closet that you shoved things into and organized it. Or you might have stuff that you've held on to that you do not need because you have this like emotional attachment to stuff. Friend, you are going to be so blessed by what Kristina has to share. I encourage you to lean in, listen in, and then follow along with her on her podcast and in her Facebook group, because she is going to help you declutter your space and in return, really kind of declutter your mind, because psychologically, when our environment is a mess, our minds are a mess. So anyway, enough of me talking. I want you to hear from Kristina. So here we go. Are you struggling with the pain of a past abortion and longing for help but don't know where to turn? Welcome to the Does God Forgive Abortion podcast. I'm Brittany, an abortion recovery and mental health coach who went from feeling completely isolated and desperate in my post-abortion grief to achieving wholeness and freedom, all because of redemption in Christ. If you are ready to break free from the chains of shame and guilt from a past decision of abortion, you are in the right place. Let's crack open that Bible, because it's time to receive the good news. Hey friend, I wanted to just pop in the middle of today's episode to remind you that healing is available for you. If you are looking for somebody to chat with one-on-one about your healing journey, I would love to invite you to book a one-on-one abortion recovery breakthrough call with me. Together, we are going to talk about your individual situation, everything you went through, what that means, and how you can move forward towards Christ and feeling that peace that only He can give. Sometimes we can get through what you need in one session, but I also have options available if you would like to continue your healing journey with me, and we will go through a framework that is going to help you address questions like, who is God? Who do I need to forgive? What areas of my life do I need healing? Where is my child now? all of those questions and more that can come up when we are trying to seek healing and wholeness from our pain and regret after abortion. I want to see that unresolved grief and shame out of your life so that you can move forward and live the abundant life that God has promised you. So if you're ready to book your one-on-one abortion recovery breakthrough call, you can go right now to brittanypoppy.com/coaching and book your very own 1-hour session. I cannot wait to see you there. All right, everyone, we are back for another episode of the Does God Forgive Abortion podcast. And I am joined by a really good friend of mine, and her name is Kristina Borsetti. And I am so excited for you to meet her and just hear what she has to share. So, Kristina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Brittany. I'm just really feeling super blessed to be here.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are blessed that you're here. And I just know that this conversation is going to be one that my listeners really enjoy. And I think it's really going to help them too with a lot of things that they might not even be thinking about right now, but they're going to listen and go, oh, yeah, I needed to hear this. So I would love if you would tell us first just a little bit about who you are and kind of what you do.
Yeah. So, as you've already said, my name's Kristina Borsetti, and I live just north of Boston over here on the East Coast. In case you have people all over the world, I always forget about that. There's people listening all over the world on podcasts. Originally from New Jersey, but came up this way because my husband's from here and just kind of ended up that way. We have one daughter, we have a dog, and just active members in the church, and that's growing, which has been really special this year. God has provided us with more time to do that and steward and fellowship with people in our community in that way. But yeah, full time, I am a professional home organizer, which I always kind of laugh about the professional part. I'm like, I would not be unprofessional, but yeah, professional home organizer with a focus on decluttering first. And yeah, I've been doing that for a few years now. I actually used to teach, I used to be a health coach and a Pilates instructor for a long time. And in another life, I did sales and marketing. So it's just so funny. I always feel like I want to mention that now because people are like, oh, you've just been this way like forever. You've just had this job forever. It's like, no, I've had a couple different lifetimes worth of careers that have brought me to where I am today. So the quick little nutshell.
Yeah, for sure. That's so awesome. And do you think too, like, that skills that you had or that you developed and learned from those, other careers that you've had have helped you in your professional organizing journey?
Yeah, if I was to look back on every single job I've ever had and all the different industries I was in, because I explored a lot when I was younger in my 20s, because I just wasn't sure where I wanted to plant myself. And so I worked in event planning, I worked in commercial real estate, I worked at a ribbon manufacturing company. I worked all over the place, which was now looking back, I know God had me in all those different roles because it was all adding up to bring me to this place. And there was just different types of organizing. When I worked for a small company, I was organizing their back end and administratively, and then office in the office space, organizing in that way, organizing portfolios and ribbons. I mean, going back to that job in particular. So just lots of different types and forms of organizing that at the time I wouldn't even have considered organizing. I'm like, oh, that's just part of my job. But you are organizing things and putting them in order, really, and making it so it's accessible for everyone else. So for sure.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That kind of leads me to what I wanted to ask you about, which is kind of like how God really led you to understanding that this is what you wanted to do and this is, kind of how you were going to help people.
Yeah. So when I moved to Boston, I had to say goodbye to a job at a company that I really, really loved. They're a medical alarm company. You've probably seen the commercial, "Help, I Fallen and Can't Get Up." So that was one of their biggest competitors. So I have to use that because we didn't have like a cool little slogan. But but I worked for them for 4 years, and it was just a really cool company. But at the time, they didn't want people to work remotely, which is sort of ironic now. But they were going to go public, so they needed to make sure everybody was still in the office. So I left there and I came to Boston. And I was having a really hard time finding a job and in something that I wanted to do. So I explored a bunch of different options, but it kept coming back to me because I had seen some stuff on HGTV and online and talked to a few people about home organizing, and I just like, what, I feel like for some reason this keeps popping into my head. And I went to a meeting back, oh my gosh, that was probably like 12, 13 years ago. And I went to a meeting and I don't know, I went in and I was like, you know what? I just don't think this is for me right now. I was just very of my own what I wanted to do, that fleshliness of what I want to do, where I want to go. Like this wasn't, for lack of a better word, a sexy enough industry. The people seemed like they were just like cleaning out dusty homes. Like this doesn't sound exciting to me, instead of just exploring it further and talking to people about it. So from there, I just kind of let that go for a while, but it was always in the back of my head. And then I went through again a couple different careers, which led me into Pilates for a really long time. And I felt like when I was in Pilates, again, there's an organizing and a bit of decluttering of people's, mindsets along the way. But I just always felt like I was kind of pushing an uphill battle in that job and that career. And I kept coming back to like, maybe I should do something with this home organizing thing for some reason. Like there were no signs on the wall or anything, saying like you should go and get this job or explore it further. I was just kept coming back to it. I'm like, I think I've started organizing my own home. I became a mom. I think that's really, if I was to reflect back, I would say that's really what pushed that idea forward into the front of my mind because without getting too much into it, I had very healthy pregnancy, but I got sick after a surgery shortly after my daughter was born. So she's about 3 months old. And so I had to really pare down everything in my life because I couldn't do much. All I could do was, gently take her for walks or play out in the yard. There wasn't a lot that I could do. And decluttering by force in that instance, in that time frame, um, yeah, it just really made me. I think God was definitely trying to show me at the time, even though I wasn't. I'm kind of all over the place in this conversation right now, but I think at the time He was trying to show me that like you just don't need all of the things. You don't need all the activities. You don't need all the events. You don't need all the toys, both, adult things like fancy cars and big houses and all of those tangible things, right? Um, and so after that, and again, I went back into teaching and I was working part-time for another company. And so I just started adding things back onto my schedule. And I just was like, I just wasn't happy for a really long time. I just again felt like I was struggling. So again, I think I guess like the point of me saying all these little pinpoints along the way is that, looking back, I can see that God was working all things to get me to this point. And I just kept pushing it away. I'm like, here I am living in a season of of less. And all I was doing was concentrating on being a mom. And I was okay with it for a while, but then I wasn't happy enough because I wasn't happy enough because I wasn't spending enough time in the word. I wasn't understanding what what he wants for us, like what the purpose is of our existence. So I wasn't seeing the signs. Didn't see God in all the things, but being able to look back and say, like, forever and ever, I just been putting so much on my schedule, just so, so busy. And then God was like, okay, well, I'm going to stop that for you for a while. But then I was just mad about it. And then, and then going back and trying to do all the things my way. And stay in the back of my mind, I was just like, I really just like, like tidying up and organizing and all of these things. So it's constantly playing in the back of my head. This is a long version to your to your question. And I just what happened again was like God put the brakes on life again. So here I was, like you and I were interning together. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this podcast that I had started. And I was still trying to do some health coaching and teaching Pilates and doing it virtually in person and driving from North to South Shore in Boston, which is like these days it takes forever. It's like 2 hours to get from one side of Boston to the other because of traffic. And I was just running amok and constantly felt like my heart was in my throat. And my daughter was at a summer camp and she fractured her leg. And I remember being like, not now, but what an awful thought to have. Like, not now. What an inconvenience. My daughter, she needs help now. Like, and so I had to figure out what to let go, but it so reluctantly. But again, in retrospect, I look back and go, this is God telling me to clutter my life. Like, you have too much going on. And all that to say, a few months later, I finally kind of leaned into, let me just start to talk to some people about this home organizing gig. Let me talk to people who've been in the industry for a while, some people that are newer to the industry, something along the lines of helping women to declutter their lives, but also their mindsets and their hearts. Excuse me. So, I was again playing back all of these things that happened in my life. So I talked to a few different home organizers, and everyone was just like, they just loved their job. They loved it so much, and everyone was so happy. No one had a bad thing to say about anything. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to offer up some free services to people that could be using, could use it, excuse me. And I had a friend who was also a former Pilates client, and she was like, hey, I have a walk-in closet you can come organize. And then that was it. And that was just kind of like where it goes from there. But yeah, fast forward now, really the goal is to, yes, I will go into people's homes and I will just clean things up and organize them. I will help them declutter if they need to sell their house. It's estate sales for family members that it passed and the family needs to sell the house. Um, but really, at the sort of core of what I do is helping to women, especially just really the podcast, is helping women to understand that, if we put our feet on the rock, right? On the rock that is
Mhm.
Jesus, and we don't stand on our own beliefs and understanding, and we really focus in on that he is going to put everything in order as he does and we'll get to where we need to be I think so much quicker and faster. But there's also like he knows what we're gonna do. He knew that I was gonna keep putting all these things off. But man, like if I had just rooted myself, I think a long time ago, then it just things would have been a lot clearer a lot sooner, I think. But but who knows? Who knows, right? We can't look back. So it's kind of the long-winded answer to your question is, all of the things come together when I really sit down, and the more conversations I have like this where people ask me, more of those memories pop up that I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, he was doing work then. So yeah. That was probably all over the place. I'm not the best at retelling my own stories. My husband always makes a joke. He's like, "You're the worst storyteller ever."
Oh my gosh, I
Um,
didn't think that. I thought that was really cool because, to your point, everything is connected, right? So, I think, even when people are going to listen to this episode and they see that you're an organizer, they might kind of automatically assume like we're talking about stuff, right? But that's not the whole picture. It's all of the things in our life. And a lot of my listeners really struggle with not only the overaccumulation of things, but they also really struggle with overachieving because they have to try to overachieve to, in their minds, cancel out this one wrong that they've done. And so filling their schedule is so full. And I know that they hear God, even if they don't know it's God, I know they hear God saying, you need to, like have
mhm.
some more free time. You need to have some quiet time. You need to have some more time with me. But they're not doing it because they feel like they have to pay some sort of penance to just continue, for I
Yeah.
think a lot of us feel like that just in general in life. Like if we're not moving, we're lazy or, something. And that's just so not true. Like God speaks to us so much in those moments where we have time to hear from him. So I love that you included all of that because I think that's so relatable and really shows how important all of this stuff is because it really does all fit together.
Yeah, it really does. And I just wanted to go back to your point of we put all these things on our schedule to cover up this one, wrong to I guess in some ways like mask it. So for me, I, for a really long time, wanted to prove, and I don't mind sharing this, is that, I wanted to prove to my father that I was successful enough because my parents separated when I was really young. And for a very long time, I wanted the title. I wanted to have the big kid job because he was a workaholic. I'm sure that he would admit to it. We've since, healed a lot of the wounds that were there when my parents got separated. But it just for so long, and I carried that into my 30s until I just basically, yeah, when I would say probably like 2 years ago. Not you'd think you're like, oh my gosh, like this revelation should have been so long ago, but like just for those oh my gosh, we're talking, like I don't even know, 20 plus years of walking around like that, thinking that I had to be an overachiever or I would never be successful in the eyes of this individual. And so I think, well, will never understand what some of your listeners have gone through. I think there is some relatability in the sense of, I mean, I can sympathize with that, that I can understand trying to, do something in order to mask something, or we are doing too much to mask our feelings. We don't want to deal with them or manage them or speak with the person who has done us wrong, or yeah, all of those things, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I really feel like the Holy Spirit is very present in this conversation. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into some of like the your expertise, like what you are, helping people with when you are helping them organize their lives. So, what kinds of like things would you say to someone who is sitting here right now thinking about how decluttering and organizing is so overwhelming? Like, how would you help them fit these types of things into their own life?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to say probably what, I don't know, like 98% of every other organizer says, because I made this reference the other day. There's nothing new under the sun. We're all influenced by each other, but it really is just taking small bite-sized chunks. And it's just a matter of, is it a whole house overwhelm? Like the whole entire house is completely cluttered with things, or is it just one room? So I kind of have either or with clients. It's either someone like, my whole house is organized, but I have that one room where we were joking a little bit in the pre-call, like my husband's clothes are just all over the chairs next to me. Nobody needs to know, right? Except now it's out there. But yeah, there's just areas where things get dumped and they go to kind of, live their life for a little while. And that could just be a sign of you again have a lot going on and things are just kind of getting shoved in the corner. Do you need to think about, maybe it's just a routine thing, like maybe there's a better routine you can work out with your family, or yourself if you're not married with children yet. But in terms of, yeah, if it's like a whole house thing, right? The whole house is just cluttered, then just pick, I would say just pick one room or one little area and just, set a timer. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Just take a stop, look at it, set the timer, and then just begin to, I would say you could do it either way. Like some people will say you should take out the things that you don't want anymore, but if that's too much of a decision or too many decisions for you that day, just look at what you want to keep. And then whatever things you don't want to keep, it's basically the same thing. Or you're just flipping the narrative on how you're looking at things and put all those things to the side. Um, if it's something where it's a closet space, for instance, where the door is shut and you don't see it for a while, or a room, same thing. Like just go in and think about what you want to keep and kind of like put it aside. If you have the time for it, you can certainly take all the things out and then, go through it one by one. But I know that sometimes that can be also overwhelming because now all the stuff is out in one place and we didn't do all the pre-planning, which I always kind of tell people, like, um, if you're going to dive into something that is really stuffed to the brim and your idea is like, oh, I'm going to take it all out and I'm going to go through and think about what I want to keep, like make sure you have enough time. Make sure you have the bandwidth, like mentally and emotionally. Like, are the kids going to be running around? Do you have activities that day? Are you going to be able to take a break and get back into it? And, if you don't think so, like, what can you motivate yourself with? Is it an afternoon, cup of coffee or maybe a little cookie or something. Just you have to reward yourself. Sometimes we just got to do it, you know? And so just taking a moment to kind of figure out what the action is. I know it's a lot of different things that I've put out there, but ultimately it's just take, bite-sized bits out of whatever you're doing, and consider what your bandwidth is, what you can emotionally stand to do in that day or that week. So
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important too because I can relate to the whole house person that you kind of described. Like that was me before I went through my healing. Like the laundry hadn't been done for months. And I wish that was an exaggeration, but it was just the truth. And, things shoved in closets and cupboards and drawers if someone was going to come over so that it would look like I had everything together, but so quite clearly I did not. And so when you look at your whole home and you're like, this is the whole problem, what you said about, picking an area, setting a timer, and focusing on that one area, small wins can make such a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think because we are talking to a Christian audience, I think prayer is just so powerful.
Mm.
I didn't say that enough, but going back to that very long story of how I got from A to B, that having that prayer time before it, like, God, give me your strength, give me your will to get through this. Make sure that you have some scripture on hand or put on some worship music. I love that, making it a holy time. I mentioned that before. Like, again, these are not all thoughts of my own, but just putting something on, some praise music to help you get up out of it. Have a friend come over, like make it a fun thing, and I know it's tough because you're saying, you were stuffing everything in drawers and it just hadn't done the laundry in months. And it's like, I guess my question to you too would be, what changed for you? Like, what could you tell the listeners changed for you that would might help them?
Yeah. I think just what you said, prayer and making it a holy time. As I grew closer to God, my desire to want to have a home that I treated like I loved instead of like it was a burden to me, uh, really kind of changed my mindset. And, we had kind of connected shortly after this time in my life, through interning, and I was listening to your podcast, and you've had some challenges in your Facebook group. And some of those challenges were so tangible for me because I think you'll have to correct me with the name of it, but wasn't it like the Fast Seven or something like that, where you just like go through your closet and your goal is to pick seven things that you can get rid of? Or maybe it's not your closet, maybe it's an area of your home. And I felt like I had like a win there when I went through my closet and was able to pick seven things that I knew were just hanging there for however long that I wasn't wearing. Like, okay, I can move these on and they can be, there can be less in my home. That was, just those small wins helped me so much.
Yeah, it's just those tiny little things. Like, I mean, again, I've had some times where I've just been like, gosh, when I was sick, back to that, like I couldn't do, most of the chores around the house. And so the house was just kind of, and what it was. And just being able to do just small things, it just, like you said, it just makes a huge difference. Just tiny things, just cleaning up off like the countertop, like just little things. And it's once you start to see that and you start to feel it, like anything, it's like, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds. Oh, I got on the scale, I lost 2 pounds. You're like, all right, I'm feeling motivated. Let's do it. Like it's just such a relatable example. Unfortunately, I can't come up with anything else, but that's pretty, for especially for women. It's like I feel like we're always either like trying to lose weight or gain muscle. I don't know. But so I just feel like when you see those small wins and those small victories, you start to feel better about things. And it's just like, oh, I'm gonna drink a little bit more water. Oh, I feel more refreshed today. My brain is working. Oh, I get to, just like go outside. I went outside today for 5 minutes. I got some fresh air. Oh, maybe I'll start going for little walks. It really is just small and steady. Like, what is that? I don't even know the analogy. I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm not even gonna say it. But something like slow and steady wins the race. I don't know. It's like a hare and a tortoise. I don't know. My dog's looking at me like you're all wrong.
No, I totally get what you're saying for sure. And I relate and agree. And it's so relatable for sure. I love that. So I would love to ask you, you work with people to help them with this. I think so often we think, oh, we can just do this all by ourselves. And some people can, but there's no accountability there. You mentioned a little bit earlier, invite a friend over while you're doing this. Um, that's accountability, that kind of helps us make or have more success maybe a little bit quicker because we're so quick to kind of like put things off on our own if we don't have someone there. So, walk us through if someone, connects with you and wants your help with this. What are the first steps that you go through with them to help them?
Honestly, Brittany, I want to have like a real good structure with that and say like, okay, guys, this is what we're doing. But what ends up happening is that people just talk. They just want
Yeah.
to talk. I think that's really what it is. And I mean, I do have a structure in my head, but I just kind of let things go. So if someone was like, I really just want I just need someone else to hear my thoughts and organize them for me. It's really, that's what it is, right? I had a gal who, uh, she was, again, her house super organized to her style, and she had these two areas that were just really driving her crazy. And then when you start talking to her and she starts, she's kind of unwinding, I'm like, well, why are those things bothering you? We come to find out that her son has a rare disease. A lot of attention goes to that. She feels very overwhelmed. So any type of clutter that she can't control, even if it's not that bad, because the door was closed in the places that she was showing me. So, but she just knows when she opens the door, she's like, this stuff is like bothering her. She has a stressful day that is going to bother her. So I was like, okay, well, what can we do? I'll walk you through some pretty easy stuff that you probably could have figured out on your own because you are already organized. But she just needed me to say to her, like, you can just do this. It was almost just like, that idea you were thinking of stacking the toilet paper on the second shelf, like you could do that. And so it sounds so silly and elementary, but that's really sometimes what it is. Because when we're so deep in whatever we have going on emotionally, it's just hard to see some of the simplest things. And that doesn't mean that we're, not intelligent or we can't do these things on our own. But sometimes, to your point, we just need that extra accountability, someone just to hear and say, like, yeah, that's a great idea. Who's not like your sister, your mom, or your cousin Mary or whatever, like someone who's like, yeah, that actually does make sense because it's what I do for a living. And yeah, that works. And like, let's talk about what's the flow. Like that's the other thing too. A lot of the times it's like I kind of have a routine, but I don't think it's working. So can you just, tell me what I need to fix? Like my car I hear a little tick. I take care of it. There's something's up. Can you look under the hood for me and just tell me, what's going on there and just help them to fix whatever best I can, right? Nothing's ever permanent, but because especially with little kids, everybody it's always changing and evolving. But in that instance, of course. Yeah. So I would just say, yeah, when you are like if you are just kind of getting back into, hey, I'm looking around my house and now I want to start making changes and I'm just been feeling a lot of different things and you've been trying to heal, like I would, phone a friend, reach out to someone or if it's working with someone like myself, like locally, finding an organizer locally to come over and just do, like a 1 hour consult. You don't have to have them like physically do it if you know you can and you will at some point, but sometimes we just need an extra helping hand. So that's basically like I invite people in just to be like, hey, well, why are you here? Like, what do we want to talk about? You know?
Yeah,
So
that's
step one.
awesome. No, I love that. And I love that too, like that shows that it's super like individualized too. It's about the person that you are helping and not just like, oh no, we have to do XYZ. This is the only way. You get to know the people that you're helping and exactly what they need because it's going to be different. But again, it all fits together. So I love that. I love that you shared that. I would love to ask you what your absolute favorite part about what you do is.
Oh, my favorite part. Honestly, my favorite part is to see people's lives. I know it sounds a little like voyeuristic and creepy, but like I love going into homes and hearing as we're going through the things, especially in the decluttering process. You know, Even if it's like I was over a client's house and she was talking about these coffee mugs and she didn't have a ton of them, but she was just like, oh, this is the one that my mom uses every time she comes to visit and she loves it because XYZ. Or these are the cups my kids made me, and then we're going through the drawer and she's got like every gadget under the sun. And she's like, well, that's a cherry pitter. And I'm like, okay. Like I learned something new today. That's cool. It's like, why do you have this? Do you make a lot of cherry pies or something? It's just you have fun conversations, or it's something where I was at another client's house and we were, oh my gosh, they had stuff there from like their great grandfather. So we're looking at things from like World War I. And then we had, oh my gosh, like all the trinkets. They had all these really cool stuff. Their parents who were hobbyists had so many amazing things. And you just get to hear the stories. You get to get a small glimpse into people's childhoods and I love watching how their faces change and the emotions that flow through and just like being there and just like it sounds so cheesy and woo, but holding space, but like it is holding space for them while we're together. And That's really my favorite part. Like obviously the end result of a clean home is also that's a close second of something that's organized and everyone feels that relief because I will all get the text messages afterwards or a call afterwards and just say like, oh my gosh, like I just can't believe how good I feel, like how much less overwhelmed I feel. Just thank you so much. Like I didn't expect those when I got into this. I just figured like it would be some way maybe it'd be too transactional, right? It would be done and that'd be it. We shake our hands, be like thanks so much. But I just like the feedback that I get from people. You're like, wow. You're like, okay, this is making a huge difference, and I'm just so grateful that God has allowed me to use all the different, skills and yeah, all the things that He's given me throughout my life to be able to help people with that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that would be so cool to just get to, touch certain things that you're, helping families organize and having them tell you the whole history behind it. Like, just kind of imagining all of the things that, specific item has seen and gone through. And that's really cool.
Yeah, because you get to appreciate it. I think that. And I'm not trying to, step on any other type of organizer's feet. Like everybody does things differently, but there's some things to be said. Like if it's something that brings you good memory, like if it's the coffee cup that your mom uses every time she visits, and it's like, then save it for her, like it's okay. Like, I think the clutter at the end of the day when I'm looking around, it's like the stuff that ends up being on the floor or the things that just don't have hangers or the paperwork that you haven't, like your kids' artwork you haven't gone through in like 3 years and things like that. Like they're just, it's really not as crazy and wild as some people. I think everyone will think like when people think clutter, I feel like people automatically think like like hoarders, like the show on was it TLC? I'm like, no, it's really no. I mean, some of the rooms will look like that. They'll be a little wild and crazy, but once you start to break things apart, you're like, okay, this isn't too nuts. I mean, I did have one client who had like 12 bungee cords, and I was like, why do you have these? She's like, I like to keep, I got to keep my furniture down outside in the winter. I'm like, girl, you only got one table, two chairs. Her and I had a good laugh about it, but she just was misplacing them all the time. So we worked on that. We're like, okay, well, let's find someplace else to use them. But it's just like you could have some fun with it and they know, they're just yeah, I have good clients. I have clients that can, they warm up. I'm very professional and then like once we get a little bit more comfortable, I'm like, "Can I be honest with you?" And then they're like, "Yeah, I guess."
Yes.
So,
Oh, that's funny. Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes it just takes few minutes or a couple times to, get that rapport and then you're like, yeah, you do not need 12 bungee cords. Or
No.
at least we can find somewhere else for that.
Yeah, we found some good uses for them actually,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was this they did come in handy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so funny. So good. So I mentioned this earlier when we were talking, but you have a Facebook group and you host, challenges in there and stuff like that. You also have your own podcast. For the person listening right now who's like, I want to listen to Kristina's podcast. I want to learn more from her. I maybe even want to work with her. Tell us some ways that we can, keep in touch with you and do that.
Yeah. Well, if you have listeners that happen to be over here in the Boston area, they're not too far north or too far south, then I mean, I will do an in-person consultation and we work it out a little bit differently than we do online. Online, I have a Calendly link which I'll provide to you and you just sign up for that and there's I think it's about a 15 to 30 minute consult and that's really just to make sure that you actually need my help, or it's something where you can do something on your own. And then we discuss next steps, basically the same as kind of similar to what I do in person, just getting to know one another and seeing if it's a good fit. So the Facebook group, yes, it's a free Facebook community. It's called Decluttering and Organizing Made Easy. I had to think about that. It's a super easy title, but if you go in the Google search, not Google, Facebook search bar, you should be able to find it pretty easily. And yeah, I run challenges. I've been doing them on a quarterly basis. And I've kind of been trying to switch them up a little bit every time to see what really works for people. So the next one, I don't know when this is going to air, but the next one's coming out at the beginning of May. And we're just doing a 7 and 7 challenge. And that's something like, honestly, if someone's listening to it right now, they could probably do it on their own too. It's just like, I just take one item from one category. through 7 days. Super easy stuff, but more than likely you'll probably take more than that. But it's just a good way to get started. But if anyone wants to join that, they can join in. And if they don't want to be on Facebook, which I totally understand, I have an email list, so they'll be able to access the challenges that way and other cool things that we just don't talk about in the Facebook group. So I think that's that on the podcast. Organized on Purpose is the podcast that I host. And I talk to women and families that are moving into a new season of life, whether that's, motherhood or, perimenopause, postmenopause, caregiving. We're just talking about how to really declutter and organize our heads and our hearts and our homes as we move into new seasons. So.
That's awesome. I love all of that. And I will make sure all of those links that you mentioned are in the show notes so people can super easily just, find what they want and what they heard and can find you without being like, what? Wait, what was that? I wanted that and I can't find it. So thank you so much for all of that, Kristina. This has been so fun and just such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I can't wait to see what fruit God has from this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been one of my most fun conversations to date. So thank you so much.
Hey, beautiful friend, I hope that you found comfort from today's episode. If so, would you consider leaving a review wherever you are listening? It truly encourages me to know that this podcast has been helping you. Also, I want to remind you that we are here for you. If you would like to connect with a community of women healing from the past decision of abortion, please join us in our private Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Christian women healing from abortion. Please know that I continue to pray for you every day, and I am so thankful for you. I will meet you back in a few days for a brand new episode, but until then, take care and God bless.